Happy Monday and welcome to Casting the Net, where we care about your mental health and well-being. I am Coach Rice, and I just wanted to come on really quickly and let you know that we are about to go live, 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, and we are going live on YouTube, Facebook, also on the Be Awesome Network. So stay tuned. Watch this next guest. I think you're going to really enjoy it.
Welcome to Mondays with Coach Rice. It's a brand new week, the sun's shining bright, a chance to cast your net, step into the light. Life's full of challenges, it's a winding stream, but with Coach Rice, you'll find your dream.
Happy Monday and welcome to Casting the Net, where we care about your mental health and well-being. I am Coach Rice, your host, and with me today, I have a special guest, and her name is Raven Fisher. She is founder of Nave Wellness Center. She is a licensed clinical professional counselor, and I just want to for us to get to know her because she has a wealth of information. So, Raven, tell us where you're from and what made you choose this as your career?
Oh, absolutely. So I'm from the south suburbs of Chicago. So from the Homewood-Flossmoor area. If people are familiar with the south suburbs of Chicago, it always cracks me up to leave Chicago and say I'm from Chicago, but I'm really just from the south suburbs. And what got me into this field is through personal experience in therapy, that prior to that I had never really engaged with the field, had never really considered it, never really knew of anyone that had gone to therapy. But when I was in college, I found myself in need of going to therapy. Had gone through some difficult circumstances, and also was nearing the end of my time in undergrad and trying to figure out what I was going to do next. I went to Harvard University for my undergrad. I got my degree in linguistics, which is the study of the structure of language, and it was beautiful to study it, but I didn't actually want any career in that field. So I was kind of in a place of trying to figure that out. And the therapist that I was working with at the time just kind of offhandedly mentioned that I would be a good therapist, and it had never crossed my mind before. So I started to look into the field a bit more. After college, I did some overseas work. For 2 years, I was in Northeast India at an aftercare home for girls that were recovered from trafficking and abuse. And I chose to do that to see if this counseling profession, this idea of walking alongside people through their hardships and challenges, if that's really where my heart was. And so doing the 2 years in Northeast India was really beneficial for confirming that for me. So then I came back and got my master's in clinical mental health counseling at Wheaton College and have been working in the field since. I started my practice, Nave Wellness Center, as my solo practice back in 2021, and then expanded it to be a group mental health therapy practice at the top of 2024. So we've got a physical office located in Frankfort, Illinois, again in the southwest suburbs of Illinois, and we do both in-person and virtual therapy services.
Wow, I remember meeting you at a wellness conference, and I was intrigued by just your whole demeanor, and I was like, I want to interview you on my podcast. But one of the subjects that I saw come up was this, the stress tolerance. So can you define what that is and why is it important for your mental and emotional well-being?
Absolutely. Right. So the concept of distress tolerance is something that we at Nave Wellness Center like to emphasize often, because it's essentially the opposite of avoidance. And that avoidance tends to be a problem that we don't often notice is a problem. But when we're avoiding things, particularly our difficult internal circumstances, our painful memories, our traumas, when we allow ourselves to just live a life of avoiding dealing with any of that, we don't allow ourselves to live life fully, right? We allow ourselves to just kind of hum along, letting life happen to us, or just going along with whatever the status quo is, rather than really letting ourselves live life in a full and fulfilling manner. all because we're allowing avoidance to take hold of us. And so then the like opposite of avoidance is allowing ourselves to build up our distress tolerance. So meaning
Mm,
like literally our ability to tolerate distress, right? That when we are practicing avoidance, it's because there's something internal that is painful and that pain is uncomfortable, and it's human nature to avoid discomfort, right? Like we don't like pain,
yes.
right? And probably ancestors, like that is a necessary thing, that if it's pain, it's probably threatening and or dangerous, and so for the sake of survival, let's avoid that pain, right? So it is like coded within us to want to avoid pain. But the problem is that nowadays those like real threats of death are not as imminent as frequently as like the cavemen had to deal with.
Right.
So our body still responds the same way, that anything that is deemed as painful, the body thinks is this threat, and therefore we need to avoid it or run from it or get away from it.
Right.
So the more that we can help ourselves to notice that pattern and then to build up our ability to tolerate distress more, to practice distress tolerance more, is the more that we can then work through these difficult and painful things so that they don't hold us captive so much. And so that then we can live our lives more fully.
Yeah, we tend to run from that type of stuff.
Yeah,
It's interesting how people instinctively avoid like emotional pain,
absolutely.
which is something that you want to not run from. But it's a signal that we need to deal with it, right?
Mhm.
What are some of the common ways of avoidance common ways that avoidance show up
Yeah,
in
yeah.
our daily lives? Like, what are some of those common things
Mhm.
that you see?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question, because it is so common that so often people don't even realize they're avoiding things. The probably a biggest one is being busy. Like the way that we just keep ourselves moving, especially in today's society and in
Mhm.
Western society, we just have so much to do, so much on our plate, so many opportunities at our doorstep, pulling us so many different directions that we are constantly busy. And it's not all bad, right? Like we do so
Right,
many good
right.
things in this world and in this life, but we keep ourselves busy. And it's to the point where we might not be allowing ourselves to be still. And in part because when we are still in that quietness is where that pain starts to come back, right? Is where those memories, the
Yes.
trauma, the difficult circumstances start to show up. And then again, the body is like, oh, don't want to feel that. Let's get busy. Let me find something else to do. Let me keep myself entertained. Let me, get on social media and doom scroll and just keep myself zoned out. Let me just find other responsibilities or tasks to do
Mm,
so that I can continue to avoid this painful thing. And it's so like second nature that we don't even realize that we're doing that so often.
that is so true. We sure can avoid the busyness is huge. Oh my goodness. I see it so many times. I've even done it in my own personal life
Mhm.
where
Mhm.
I didn't want to just sit still because I knew I had to really face some things, some deep conversations that I may need to have with myself. But how do people know it's busyness in that way? Because
Mhm.
that's kind of interesting, right?
Right, exactly. Right. It can be hard to discern. Is it
Right,
busyness because I just have a lot of things to do? Because a lot of things are important to me and I want to do them? Or is
right.
it busyness because I'm avoiding what else could be deeper? One way to test that is if we can allow ourselves to be still and see what shows up, and like really still, right? The not reaching for the phone or the TV or some other distraction, but to just sit in stillness for a few minutes and see how that is. I feel like so many people really struggle with just like silence and stillness, that they find it awkward or
Yes.
uncomfortable, be it in the presence of somebody else or
Mhm.
just even by themselves. They find that so
That is
awkward
so true.
to sit in, right? And that's what I love as my work as a therapist, and with Nave Wellness Center, we practice some of that stillness with clients, and it's so disorienting to them sometimes. They're like, am I supposed to say something? What's happening in therapy? Like what's going on?
Right.
But
This
so
is uncomfortable. What are you doing? No.
exactly like that is like one of the first little steps of how we build
Right.
our stress tolerance is can we be okay with feeling uncomfortable for a little bit in this like, kind of measured or controlled way. Like it's okay to feel a little bit uncomfortable. So can we let
Yes.
ourselves sit with ourselves, notice what discomfort is there? And then if so, it's like, oh, okay, can I explore that a bit more? Can I be curious about this discomfort to recognize maybe there's something that I've been avoiding, something that I haven't been dealing with?
That is so true. Because we can totally miss things when we so busy. We miss what we can be actually successful in sometimes. It's not, and you're right. It's so many ways to do that. And you know, what's another way it may show up?
Of the avoidance.
Yes.
Yeah. The fact that um, avoidance can show up any, or like we can notice that there's probably something being avoided anytime that someone may respond in an emotionally heightened way that may not be otherwise like appropriate for that moment, right? So anytime somebody gets super defensive, if somebody brings up a concept or an idea or a topic and that person's like, oh no, that's not me, or I don't know why would you even bring that to me, or something like that, that is just like, it didn't take all that. Like, why'd you have to respond that harshly to
Yeah.
something?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that could give us space for pause of, is there something that's being avoided? Is there something internal deeply that is a bit tender that whatever that topic was, it touched on that. And the person may not be trying to deal with it or willing to deal with it. And so they kind of want to dismiss it and push it to the side, right? Those
Right.
are some of those telltale signs of there might be something being avoided. And if that person could cultivate a willingness to look at that, then they could work with it and work through it.
Right. And that's so true because it's hard to hear sometimes. And that's where the defensiveness come from. It's hard to hear what's really happening, but you want to take a deeper dive if it's causing you to react that way, right? Because our bodies really talk to us.
Yes.
And I think we have to listen to it. It's really keen that I noticed that our bodies really truly talk to us. What are some of the practice? I know you mentioned that you guys, in your practice, you sit still. Are there any other foundational practices that help people to kind of build that muscle?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And I would say, like I mentioned, how at Nave Wellness Center, we enjoy infusing bits of stillness or bits of silence into our sessions to challenge clients to encounter themselves in that stillness.
Mhm.
In similar ways, just anything falling under the camp of mindfulness, right? Those familiar with mindfulness, that being
Right.
engaged in the present moment without getting taken away from it or taken away by it. And under that camp of mindfulness come like various meditation kind of practices.
Mhm.
All of those things are related to that stuff of a bit of stillness or a bit of like present awareness and engagement so that we can, I mean, the overarching thing is just, can we slow ourselves down? Right. It's like I mentioned, with all of the
Right.
busyness, with all of the movement, with all of the reactionariness, that is just us moving and reacting so quickly. And so, can we help ourselves to practice slowing down so that then, by way of slowing down, we can notice what enters into those stiller spaces, those quieter spaces, and then we can start to let ourselves notice what we're avoiding. Right. So again, like mindfulness and meditative practices can be like breathing exercises. It could be,
Mhm.
let me sit and stare at the wall. Let me, notice the leaves outside. Let me go for a mindful walk and just be present with my surroundings. Let me walk through my senses, notice the things that I'm seeing and hearing and tasting and smelling and feeling right now. Like any of that kind of stuff, it helps us return to our body and return to the present moment so that we can just take census of what is around us and be still and slower with what is going on in and around us. And then
Yes.
in those still moments, right? A quick related tangent is that often when I suggest meditation to a client, they're like, oh no, that doesn't work for me. Like I can't quiet my thoughts. I can't slow down. Like that's just not something that I can do. And so they think that therefore it must not be an intervention they could utilize, right?
Right.
The thing is that when we implement meditation or mindfulness, that is exactly what the brain and the body is going to do is start to fire off, is start to just things come up, it gets busy. That's what the mind is used to doing. So when someone's practicing mindfulness or meditation, they're not failing at it because the brain starts doing things, but that's actually just like part of the exercise. And so
Mhm.
if the person could be willing to then notice that the brain did things and then bring themselves back to whatever their mindful task is of, noticing their breath or paying attention to their body, like that is what builds up our ability in the stuff of practicing mindfulness and meditation. It's just
I am
continuing to
so
bring ourselves
glad
back to it.
you mentioned that because that is what people actually think that it's not working. My
Mm-hmm.
brain, because I noticed that it's a skill set, right? I remember I didn't like mindfulness for a long time. And when I was doing a master's program, I had a hard time and struggled with that because I was like, my brain won't stop. My brain won't stop.
Mm-hmm.
But I like how you put it. It's supposed to start off like that, but if you give it a chance and just focus on your breathing or
Right.
focus on something that single thing you focus on in the
Mm-hmm.
moment of your quietness will really take you there. And that is the most amazing feeling ever.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And that, like, the person doing it grows so much by being willing to stick with the exercise. That it's like, oh, my brain wandered off to wherever, I noticed it and brought it back.
Bring
Like,
it
that
back.
is the power of the exercise, is the noticing and coming back to it and not giving up and continuing in the exercise.
Right. That is so true. How does, in your opinion, internal narratives play
Yeah.
in the role of like dealing with, you know, the stress tolerance?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so similar to the mindfulness thing we just talked about, so many people just have this internal idea that they tell themselves, the story they tell themselves, I can't do this. This isn't for me. And so therefore it gets dismissed before we can even really give it a try, right? In the same manner, there are so many messages that we've received somehow through our lives. Often it comes up maybe in our upbringing, maybe in early relationships, or from media or from culture, from other
Yes.
people, these messages that we then internalize as part of how we move through the world, how we view the world, our perspective and our understanding of how the world works, the rules that we think exist. And we don't even call them rules, but we just align with them. We just fall in line with, well, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I'm allowed to do. And those rules sometimes can be really limiting and sometimes can get in our way, again, from being willing to like try things and experience things. And so that's what happens in this place of avoidance as well, is so many, I don't know how many of y'all have grown up with like the beliefs of, there's certain things we just don't talk about. There's certain
Right.
experiences that we're not supposed to share with anyone. Like, if I
Mhm.
have this thought, it's not okay to share that thought. If this happened at home, it's not okay to tell anybody that that happened to me. There are so many things that in our society, it is just taboo to approach.
Right.
And then that stuff just gets buried internally and is like hidden in this quieted, shameful place. And that is some of the stuff that then ends up being avoided as well. That it's, well, I'm not allowed to talk about this. I was always taught that I'm not allowed to speak on this. So therefore, I'm supposed to just continue avoiding it and keep pushing. Like, those are the kinds of messages or rules that we think we're supposed to abide by. And so then avoidance shows up in this way of, I think I'm doing what I'm supposed to. I'm not supposed to deal with that stuff. The past is past. Why would I bring up old stuff, And then we abide by those
Right.
internal messages and keep trying to push forward when there's still unhealed stuff existing within us.
Oh God, I love that you brought that up. That is so true.
Yeah.
That is so true. We have to deal with those
Mhm.
things that those areas we need to heal in, but it's easy to avoid if you're
Yes.
not careful.
Yes.
It's
Absolutely.
so easy to avoid it. And
Mhm.
I'm glad we're talking about it because it's happening so much
Mhm.
where we are not challenging ourselves when we feel a certain way, when we feel that distress, when we feel that turbulence.
Mhm.
Um, we don't allow ourselves to lean into it
Right.
and get the help we need. And so, what tips would you give to the audience when it comes to like because there's so many ways that it pops up and we avoid things that we should be actually leaning into. But sometimes you need help with
Yes.
getting that out.
Mhm.
But what type of tools or advice would you give the audience and actually noticing and leaning into it?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, let's see, which tool first? Because there's a few things that come to mind. Um, I guess the first thing coming to mind is journaling can be helpful. And I know I say that, and a lot of people roll their eyes. They're like, I don't want to
I
journal. I don't like
love
to
journal.
write.
That's my favorite.
Journaling can be such a
Journaling is
helpful
my favorite.
it's such a helpful practice because it allows the brain and the body to process more. Like there are so many things that just live in here that we just keep it in our brains and we don't want to speak on it. We barely even want to think about it, but it just stays in here wanting to churn and then feeling stuck internally in the mind. When we allow ourselves to journal, that is a way of getting it out. And by starting to get it out, again, that helps the brain to process more fully so it can start to work with it and recognize what's going on there. When it comes to journaling, like there are so many different ways a person can engage with it. There's, millions of journal prompts on the internet if someone wanted to look them up and decide like, where would I like to get started? Um, but something to start with could be like journaling through highs and lows of a day, or just journaling through what are the thoughts that were coming to my mind today. Or when I sit still for a couple of minutes, what is showing up there? And can I be willing then to, for one, like notice it and not shoo it away right away, and then to write it
Yes.
down and to work on journaling through it, right? So I mentioned journaling because that is such a helpful, tangible practice. But even like I just mentioned in that practice of journaling, that first step of can we just let ourselves notice the thoughts that we're having, notice what is showing up for us
Yes.
in those moments of stillness or quietness, and can we like acknowledge those thoughts rather than shooing them away. It's so quick. We're so fast to just like, nope, not thinking about that and move on to something else. And so, again, if we can let ourselves slow down so that we can notice the thoughts and just acknowledge that they exist, that can be really helpful. Like in that space of acknowledging, we don't have to react to it. We don't have to judge whatever those thoughts are or whatever is going on internally, but we can just notice that it exists and allow it to exist. Like say that it's okay that this thought is here and I may not understand it yet, but it's okay that it showed up, you know? Um,
Yes.
that can be a way that a person can start with things. I get that even that can sound hard to do or feel like kind of heavy for a person to take on themselves when they're just completely unfamiliar with any of this kind of work, right? So that's why I preach, I suppose, the stuff of going to therapy, right? Like a
I do too.
therapist.
I think it's amazing to go.
Exactly. A therapist, I mean, is much like a life coach or like any other mentor type person in a person's life that you don't have to have something really acute or something really severe to go to therapy. Like your world doesn't have to be completely falling apart, right? It
Right.
just be that there's a little bit of something that feels unsettled or unfinished, or again, right, that beginning of noticing, is there something I've been avoiding? Like that's the kind of stuff that could encourage a person to go to therapy so that they can work with that in a safe space with a therapist to try and start uncovering and start unpacking what is the stuff that's down in there that I haven't really dealt with yet.
And I definitely totally agree with you. I'm an advocate for that because really seriously, like I love it. Like when I'm in distress, I make an appointment and go get the help I need. And it don't make me feel like I'm less than a person. It's actually one of the most powerful things you can do because we're not we you know is we don't know everything and we don't see our own stuff.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so because we can easily justify
Mhm.
or put it off or avoid it. We could easily do that and it won't look like it, right? It will mask itself as if we've dealt with it already. And that's the danger. So when you feel, I agree with you, when you feel distress or anything, preventative. If you just want to talk, I say word vomit. You have somebody you can word vomit on, walk away, you're not judged, and you get the help you need, right? I love that part.
Yeah. It's so like it sounds so simple to at times, the stuff of like word vomiting, right? That it's like,
Right.
I don't need to talk about it. Like people want to dismiss that as if that's not significant. But from like a scientific level, the brain needs that to help process, right? And so that's why either talking or journaling, like when we have thoughts, it just lives in one part of the brain that does its little bit of thinking. But when we allow ourselves
Yes.
then to either speak about it or write about it, that thought has to work its way through the brain, right? When we're speaking, it has to work its way into the language part of the brain to make it out of our mouths. It is heard by our ears. And so the part of the brain that receives hearing is also getting it back. And then we're able to engage with another person about it and they give us some perspective as well. So, like, the brain gets to process what we're dealing with in a number of ways so that that thought can make its way past its stuck place of just being in the thought realm,
Yes.
So like
And I like the
really is
fact
so
that
much power there.
yes, it's you right. It's so much power there because you get a chance to hear
Mhm,
what you actually thinking.
mhm.
And believe it or not, those thoughts are driving your behavior. So if it's an error in your thought, that's where you use that's why it's good to journal or a word. Just let people let all of that out. Like I let, I really started to let my clients just let it out.
Yeah.
Just let it out. That way I can kind of see what's getting you the areas where you're stuck because a lot of times our thoughts are keeping us bound.
Exactly.
And so when I love journaling, I got so many journals that that I'm done, that I completed. I just love it. It's a way to clear my head. You're right, it has to go through the process. I love the fact that you mentioned that.
Yeah, exactly. Like it just really is so much more significant than people may give it credit for.
Yes, it is. But I love having this conversation because I think it happens more often than not.
Yeah.
And it's a danger in avoiding,
Yes. Exactly.
and I guess let's talk about a little bit about that, the danger in avoiding
Yeah.
what's
Right.
going on in your life. What do you see the dangers of
Yeah.
being?
I think you said something earlier that alluded to the fact that like so much is connected between what's going on in the mind and the body, right? So, um, when I bring that up because that is what relates to some of the danger of avoiding is that when we're avoiding some of these memories or these challenging internal circumstances, we're thinking like, oh, but that's just thoughts. It's fine. I can bottle it up. I'll live, whatever. That is causing harm, physical harm to the body. That distress, again, right? We were talking about distress tolerance, but that
Yes.
distress is stress on the body that heightens our cortisol levels and leads to the body starting to deteriorate on itself, right? So, like a lot of our physical ailments and just like body problems that start to show up can be a result of some of this internal avoidance that's taking place. Um, so we can cause ourselves a lot of physical harm by continuing to avoid things. We can also cause ourselves a lot of relational harm, right? That
Yes.
we try to avoid things, we try to put it to the side, bottle it up, though we won't want to say that we're bottling it up, but it's like, no, it's fine. We swept it under a rug. That's bottling it up. And when we bottle it, it's under pressure and eventually it explodes. And that can just ruin a lot of relationships. We end up, you know, lashing out and saying things that we didn't mean to say and hurting people and hurting ourselves in ways that could not be potentially not be repaired. Um,
Right.
so that all of that could have been prevented by being willing to take looks at ourselves and not avoid things and work through those things earlier.
Yes. And you, oh man, it's just so much you said is just so amazing and so true. And what really was interesting on the other side, you're gonna have to face it anyway.
Yeah.
You can only avoid it so long. Eventually you have to deal with it. eventually. Rather, and you're right, it causes a lot. I see a lot of health issues, underlying health issues, from the level of stress. Stress to kill you.
Yeah.
And so you might as well just go ahead and deal with it while your body is talking to you at that moment, and just
Exactly.
get someone else to deal with it with. That way you're not alone in
Exactly.
it. And I would say definitely get the help you need because it's so important.
Mhm.
And
Exactly.
so how can people reach you? Even
Yeah.
though I will put your links in the chat in the video, but how can people reach you to actually get your services?
Absolutely. Right. So we at Nave Wellness Center have plenty of availability. We work with clients of all ages and backgrounds. We work with individuals and couples and families, and we run some groups as well. We take most insurances, including Medicaid and Medicare currently. And we do have a sliding scale available as well. And so people can reach out to us on our website, navecenter.com. So Nave is Nave center.com. Or they can reach out at our contact email, which is hello@navecenter.com, or the phone number for our practice is 877-929-6283.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you came on this podcast. And if, as the audience, if you felt like this was helpful, please do share and subscribe because I always have amazing people on my show. And just want to say thank you so much, Raven, for coming on and sharing your wisdom and knowledge with us, and just to let people know that you do not have to, don't avoid what your body is talking to you about.
Absolutely. It's an honor to be here. I love to talk about this kind of stuff because I just so want to help normalize the stuff of, can we look at ourselves more? Can we get to know ourselves more and stop avoiding? Like, it is okay to step into these hard places so that we can stop avoiding, build up our distress tolerance, and then be able to live our lives more fully. So thank you for having
Yes.
me.
Thank you. And just to say happy Monday, and we are signing off.
It's your time to shine.